Hello, and welcome to 2-Minute Talk Tips. This week's tip, practice in your speaking shoes. Thinking back on the first day of high school and what I wore, I was a real snazzy dresser. Let me tell you. Black slacks, a blue and white striped shirt with a white collar, a blue and black skinny sort of iridescent tie, and these shoes that looked like gray suede, although they probably weren't actually gray suede, on top of black heels. This was pretty sharp in 1985. The problem is it was a little too sharp, and those shoes gradually wore away at my ankles, and I ended up having blisters and sort of breaking the skin at various points. I eventually discovered these adhesive things that went in the shoes to prevent that from happening, and put Band-Aids on my heels to minimize the problems as well. Now, of course, if you're about to do an important talk, you may want a new outfit with new shoes and everything to make it look really sharp. But if it's an important presentation, you don't want to find out on stage that you have the same problem with your shoes that I did back in 1985, that they are too sharp and hurt your ankles, or that they hurt your toes, or that they're too tight, or that they're too slippery, or that they're too clunky. You want to find out beforehand by practicing in your actual shoes, and then you can make an intelligent decision about what to wear when you actually get on stage. And by the way, the same principle is going to apply to the rest of your outfit as well. You want to make sure that you can move in that nifty new blazer or jacket, and that your shirt will hold up well and won't show unfortunate pit stains in the lights. Basically, practice in the outfit you intend to wear when you're going to do your speaking. And most importantly, practice in those shoes beforehand. You want to find problems during rehearsal, not during actual speech time. Stick around, and after the break, we're going to talk about being an audience member for somebody else's presentation. Welcome back. Many years ago, I was demonstrating computer servers with my colleagues at a trade show called NetWorld Interop in Las Vegas. Traffic at this show in the Las Vegas Convention Center was actually extremely light, especially compared to our previous experience with Comdex. We ended up with a lot of downtime. And it wasn't just us. Other booths also had a lot of downtime and a lot of light traffic. At the booth next to us, though, they had scheduled presentations throughout the day. And despite the low traffic, they kept to that schedule even when no one was there. That means they had this intrepid presenter who would start on time every time, even if he was presenting to just a bunch of empty chairs. Now that is a rough situation and a tough audience. Chairs rarely respond the way you want them to. So a bunch of folks from our booth went over to sit in on his presentation just so he would have an audience, because we were all speakers and we knew what it was like and how painful that could be. I talk a lot about how to be a more effective speaker and how to work with an audience. This week, I want to flip the table a little bit on that and talk about how to be a good audience member. I'll do it in a couple of fives. First, I'll talk about 5 reasons why you ought to be a good audience member, and then I'll talk about 5 ways that you can be a good audience member. So let's talk about the 5 reasons to be a good audience member. First, you can learn a lot from the content. Second, you can learn from their technique. Third, you can be seen as more professional. Fourth, you can secure an ally. And fifth, it's just the right thing to do. First of all, you can learn from their content. Odds are, if you are on the same program as another speaker, or if you've been invited to be a member of that audience for some reason, that content is likely relevant to you in some way. That speaker is an expert on their stuff. They have a message, and they have value to deliver. Someone felt it was worth everybody's time and money to put everybody in the room to listen to that speaker. That means somebody thought there was a lot of value to it. This is a great opportunity for you to go ahead and take advantage of that and to learn from their content. And even if their content is not directly related to the stuff that you are going to talk about, odds are it's going to be closely related. And even if it's not, it gives you an opportunity to learn more about something else, and you never know when that information will come in handy. Second, you can learn from their technique. Now, I've been speaking for decades, and I still like watching and learning from other speakers, especially really great ones. When you're watching a presentation, go ahead and ask yourself, what does that speaker do well? Do they have a really interesting story that they tell, or a really interesting storytelling technique? Do they have effective visuals or really well-designed slides, or perhaps a new way of presenting charts and graphs and other data? How about a clever prop or a visual aid? Is that something you could consider doing in the future, or does it inspire ideas in you for what you can do in the future? How do they handle questions? Do they do it well? Do you see something interesting in their gestures or their approach to questions that you could adopt? Is there anything else awesome that they do? Remember, even if it's not your style, and even if it's not something you could implement directly in your stuff, it still could provide an idea or a source of inspiration for something that you could incorporate in the future and put your own spin on that technique. Alternatively, is there something that they don't do well that is a good reminder for you when you go ahead and do your practice or craft a new presentation or actually go ahead and deliver your talk? What would you do differently than what they do? Does what they do remind you of something that you should or should not do? This is not about looking for an opportunity to feel superior to another speaker or to feel inferior to another speaker. It's about conscious awareness of what does and does not work and why. And ultimately, it's about figuring out how you can use that information to get better in the future. Third, you could be seen as more professional. Being respectful of your coworkers, your industry colleagues, guests, or others in the room is just part of being professional. Now, this can be especially important if you're younger and you want to appear more mature to your other colleagues and managers. If you're older, you may be more concerned about securing the respect of your colleagues and your subordinates, because your subordinates are more likely to respect you if you behave professionally in front of other speakers. If you behave rudely or unprofessionally in front of other speakers, your subordinates are going to lose respect for you as a manager. Disrespectful behavior might seem like a good idea at the moment, because you may even get laughs. But is that how you'd like to be known at work? As sort of the class clown, as the one who goes ahead and gets laughs at the expense of other speakers? Probably not. It might make you popular at the water cooler, but it's not going to help your overall career advance. Generally, professionalism will give you more credibility and generate more respect and trust from everybody in the room. That matters at promotion time, at proposal time when you're trying to sell a new idea, and even at presentation time when it's your turn to be up on the stage. Fourth, you can secure an ally. Often when we're speaking, we'll go ahead and scan the room and we'll find the person who is looking at us, who is taking notes, and who just generally appears to be attentive. We'll have found an ally in that room. Pretty much all speakers look for one. Can you think of the last time you gave a presentation and you looked around and found an ally, even if you didn't do it intentionally? When you're in the audience, you want to be that ally for that presenter. And when it's your turn to speak, they may be that ally for you. And when you have that ally and you can be comfortable with that ally in the audience, it gives you an opportunity to be more comfortable up on stage. And when you're more comfortable up on stage or in the front of the room, you're going to be more confident and effective. And of course, fifth, and perhaps the most important reason to be a good audience member and to be respectful, is it's just the right thing to do. If you want good audiences, you should also be a good audience. If you want respect, be respectful. Model that good behavior that you want to see from others. It's simply the moral and ethical thing to do, to demonstrate the behavior that you want others to demonstrate to you. So now that we've talked about 5 reasons why you should be a good audience member, let's talk about 5 behaviors you can engage in to be a good audience member. First, be attentive. At the most basic level, watch and listen to the speaker. Don't spend your time checking email, text messages, Facebook updates, and the latest Amazon tracking information on that rare Funko Pop you just found. Unless there is a specific hashtag or Twitter back channel for this presentation, try to stay off social media while they're speaking. And if you're not actively taking notes on your device, go ahead and put those electronic devices out of sight. Don't pack up noisily during the speaker after you. And avoid practicing your presentation and doing all of your setup in the room in front of the other speaker who is currently speaking before you. If you need to do more prep work, if you need to get ready for your section, go ahead and step out of the room. Second, take notes. If a speaker says something interesting or compelling, go ahead and take notes on that. They ought to have a main point that they are trying to make or an action that they are trying to inspire. Go ahead and make a note of that. When I'm speaking, I notice when other people are taking notes. And when you're speaking, you probably notice when people are taking notes about your content as well. It gives you valuable information about what people value most in the discussion that you are leading. And it shows you that they're paying attention. And it shows you that they care about what you're talking about. So go ahead and take notes to give the speaker that you are listening to that same consideration. Third, participate. When a speaker asks folks to do an activity or to answer a question, go ahead and participate. You know how frustrating it is for yourself as a speaker when you try to do that with your audience and you get no response. So make sure that you are participating in the way that you would like your audience members to participate. Now, you don't have to be the most active participant in the room, especially if you're not the primary audience for that speaker. You don't want to overshadow the rest of the audience members who are the primary audience for that speaker. But that doesn't mean you have to be the most reticent as well. And it doesn't mean you should ignore all the activities the speaker wants to do or all the participation the speaker wants from you. Again, think about how you would want audience members to respond when you're asking them to engage. Fourth, ask appropriate questions. When the speaker asks if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them, but ask only relevant and appropriate questions. If you already know the answer, you don't have to ask it. You're not cross-examining a witness unless you happen to be an attorney in court cross-examining a witness. Don't ask a question that's just intended to stump the speaker, to give them a hard time, or to show how smart you are. People generally notice that, and they can suss out that motivation. And you know what? People don't like the audience member who does that. So, don't be that person. Fifth, limit the side talk. Now, this is part of being attentive, but generally, those conversations with your neighbors can wait. Avoid distracting the speaker and avoid distracting the other audience members by avoiding side conversations. It's easy to forget this when the conversation you're having is about the presentation you're about to do or the one that you've just done. But ultimately, avoid those side conversations in front of that other presenter while that presenter is speaking. Overall, these 5 behaviors and others that I'm sure you can come up with are pretty simple stuff. I mean, we learned most of this back in kindergarten. The bottom line is still the classic: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Be that person in the audience that you want to have in your own audiences when you're speaking. So today we've covered the 5 reasons why you should be a good audience member. You can learn from content, you can learn from technique, you can be seen as more professional, you can secure an ally, and, well, it's just the right thing to do. And we've talked about 5 ways that you can actually be an audience member. You can be attentive, you can take notes, you can participate, you can ask appropriate questions, and you can limit side talk. I hope we can all be more effective audience members in the future, which will ultimately make the speaking experience better for everyone. So that's it for this week. Go ahead and practice for your next presentation in the actual shoes you plan to wear. be the audience member that you want in your audience. Go ahead and help a friend or relative become a more effective public speaker by helping them subscribe to 2-Minute Talk Tips on their phone or favorite mobile device. And as always, don't get best, get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you next week.